Hello, and thanks for coming along to And We Have an Office Dog, the digital agency podcast where we talk to agency owner-directors and learn more about what makes them tick. From the things that make them similar to the things they'd rather have known sooner, where they've had success and where they've learned some hard lessons. All will be revealed with your host, Chris Simmance, the agency coach, and he'll be talking to a different awesome agency person in each episode, asking them 4 questions and seeing where the conversation takes us over the next 25 minutes. Okay, so let us begin. Over to you, Chris.
Thanks, voiceover guy. On the podcast today, we've got Anthony. How are you doing, mate? How are you going?
Very well. Great to be here.
It's been God knows how long that we've been trying to get this sorted. So I'm really glad that we finally got the date right between one of us moving it and the other one moving it and then thinking that we've moved it. So we're here. We're here.
Happy days.
And it's a nice end of the week as well. So I'm ready for the weekend. I don't know about you.
100%. Let's get it going.
Yeah, exactly. So, first of all, for anyone who doesn't know, you've lived under a rock, but anyone who doesn't know, tell us who you are and what you do, what agency you're running.
Thank you very much, Chris. Well, my name's Anthony Barone, and I am the co-founder and managing director of StudioHawk UK, an SEO-only agency based in London.
And how long have you been going there? Because I know that there's the Australian outfit, and you're running the UK outfit. So, how long's the UK version been running?
It's been running for 3.5 years. Yeah, I moved over here in August of 2019, just before the pandemic. And so 3.5 years of lessons and experience.
Just setting up an agency in lockdown is no mean feat. And, you know, you've not done too bad. I'm going to say that. So we're going to have I think because the agency's been, we've had Harry, founder of StudioHawk and runs Australia version. He's been on in the past. I think he's going to come on season 2 soon. Let's frame all of this from you, agency leader of the UK, because as much as we love Harry, you've done the hard graft on this end of the hemisphere, should we say? So let's focus it along those lines. What do you think, though, has been one of the biggest successes that you've seen since you started doing this?
For me, honestly, personally and professionally, I came to the country with no idea, no clue, and got thrown in the deep end. After only 18 months of being an SEO, I moved to the UK and we thought, hey, let's start the agency. So I really started from below zero, I would say. With Harry's help and a few early contacts, because we'd done it in Australia, we had a bit of that experience. But me personally, never run a business before. I've only managed a couple of people back in Australia. So it was really just being thrown in the deep end. And then starting an agency in one of the most competitive markets, not only for SEO, but for digital marketing. You've got a lot more switched on people. You've got a lot of brands with a lot of big money who have got really knowledgeable people, not just about SEO, but digital marketing in general. So you're really up against it. Not to denigrate Australia, but the UK is London is a world-class city with some of the biggest companies, brands, and people. So, it's no easy feat to try and start an agency with some of the best SEOs in the world here in the UK.
Yeah. So the success is that you've actually been able to do it successfully. It isn't easy. And I understand where you're coming from when you say, UK and then London in particular. I'd guess that partly because the cost of everything in London is so high, the competition is quite high also. But you guys have done exceedingly well. How many are in the team at the minute?
Yeah, so we've got 8 in the team in the UK. I would say, yeah. So we've got 7, I'd say, dedicated SEOs, and then myself, who I've taken myself sort of out of the reporting and doing the account stuff because they're all better than me now at the SEO. So yeah, team of 8 dedicated SEO specialists, mate.
That's awesome, and I think one of the key things that you guys have done really well is you've stuck to your guns, SEO only, and focused on that as a way of kind of niching into something, because there's a real draw, isn't there? If a client comes along and you go, oh, this would be a great client for SEO, but can you do some PPC, or can you do a bit of social for me? Can you do a bit of web dev? If you stick to your guns, you know what you're doing.
100%. We're specialists in one thing. We care about one thing, which is SEO. And I think being a specialist allows, when you're running the agency, you're able to focus your training, your skill set on just SEO. I don't have to worry about 40 different other SKUs. We've built a lot of friendships and relationships with people who are also specialists in PPC or social media or web dev. Let them handle it. You call a plumber to fix the toilet. You're not going to call an electrician. So that's the way I look at it. And by having that mentality, we're able to build relationships, build friendships, because there's enough business to go around. So even to other SEO agencies, if there's high level stuff, we've got plenty of friends like Ross from Type A who, you'll handball work to, because there's enough to go around, and people have their niches, people have their specialties. And as an agency, as an agency owner, there's it's easier to make friends and get along rather than just trying to, do it all yourself. Because if you try and keep everyone happy, you make no one happy. And if you try and do it all yourself, you can't spin that many plates.
Yeah, completely agree. And I think you say you can make friends and things like that. I think it's in London. I've noticed that even though the competition is high, the community is great. And I think that it's not a case of sharing client secrets, but nothing is really a secret in SEO, and nothing's new, but very little is new. So you can have a really good relationship with other agencies, other SEOs, things like that. So you don't get so much of that in advertising. You certainly don't get it in digital PR, I've noticed, as much as SEO. Just talking of community, do you want to just really quickly touch on the community that you're building around the events that you're doing? Because I think they're fantastic.
Oh, thank you very much, Chris. So yeah, we've got the Agency Social Club, which we've built with a friend of mine called Stokely from Trinity Grandad. The idea behind that was essentially we're in Shoreditch. It's a creative heart, there's a lot of hipsters here, but there's a lot of agencies. And we thought, why not have a networking event that's geared towards agencies in our own backyard? And I was a part of too many networking events and too many sort of groups. So I'm like, well, let's just do one in our own backyard that's geared towards agency founders that can have a good night on a Thursday night, which is the night in Shoreditch, and get around each other. So we've done a couple so far. And, we had Claire from Chime Agency the marketing agency for marketing agency speak at our last one. We're looking at organizing our next one. We've had good 60, 70 people at both of those events. So we're looking to make that a more consistent thing and just have a bit of fun, because sometimes it does get lonely as an agency founder and you just want to build. And sometimes, the networking might be a bit old school, sort of that sort of stuff. When in actual fact, getting along with people and being able to build relationships is the way to go, because there'll be challenges that people have faced that you're facing. They've got the answer. You just need to ask them. So that's the whole goal behind it.
Yeah, and doing that in a IRL fashion really does get people going, because we're out of all of the lockdowns and things like that, but people still work from home for the most part. For especially in this industry, quite a lot of agencies are either fully remote or hybrid and things like that. So getting people face to face is a great thing to do. And I can speak firsthand to your events. You've got people there like you, if that makes sense. Yeah. So it's easy to just turn around behind you and talk to anyone that stood behind you that you never met before, and you can have a conversation. I think, that's a real success, mate. And, it's a big thing to come in fresh off the boat a few years ago, sit in a tiny house that you don't know anyone, and build an agency of 8 people that's very well run, and start building a community externally to that. It's really, really, you should take your hat off. Well, I take my hat off to you at least. But saying that though, if you were to go back in time to when you first kicked off StudioHawk UK, and if you could go back in time, that'd be great. So many things I'd do differently. What advice would you give the younger, slightly shorter haired version of yourself?
Mate, I know, fade haircut back then. I would probably say take it more serious. I wish I could take it more seriously. I think because it was just me, I was just floating around, just trying to figure it all out. Didn't really have too much of a plan. It was more just like, oh, we did it in Australia, so we'll figure it out. And we've got to this point, which has been great. But I think if I'd taken it a bit more seriously, I'd focused a bit more on nurturing more relationships because I knew no one. I had to just spread myself to as thin as possible to try and meet people, go to BNI, go to networking events, go to SEO events, and do it all, which is great for service level conversations and has helped us get to a point. But it didn't allow, and because I was doing everything, it didn't allow me to try and build stronger relationships probably earlier on, which could have led to bigger opportunities and maybe faster growth. So I'd probably say if I went back in time, take it a bit more seriously, and focus a bit more.
Yeah, and I can feel that because I think I remember when I was starting out, it was I was in the UK and I was in London, the city I already was in, and I still didn't necessarily take it all that seriously. I remember thinking, the first few clients that had come in, you looking at the cash flow and thinking, that was easy. Let's just carry on with the same way. And it doesn't work when you get to 8, does it?
Yeah, you need to have a plan. You need to have the structure, and that's what I've started to really focus on, and just be a bit more serious. Put the adult cap on and go. Look, for example, do we want a lifestyle business, or do we actually want to build, something like for the long term? And for me, I look at StudioHawk as a decades-long, multi-decade agency. And for myself personally, and to continue to build that, while in my first year, it's more like, oh, this is nice to pay the bills in London, and we'll see how it goes. Bit loose. But for me now, it's like this is the opportunity for not only myself, but for everyone who comes through StudioHawk to build a life and a career through StudioHawk and through SEO, really. So that's
and
that's what I want to do.
And I've met a fair amount of your team at various different events and things like that, and I can say that you've not just built a team of people who do SEO. You've got people who are really personable, easy to talk to, which is a really important thing, especially in SEO, when you do on the technical side at least end up with some nerds, and very hard to get them away from their bedroom and their computer screens. But you've got a good bunch of people, which is the right way of hiring your team for the longevity that you talk about. If you have people like that, then it attracts more people like that, which then means that it's not just a busy, hardworking environment, but you've got a nice feeling when you're there.
100%. And basing off those core values. And I think in the early hires, we looked at people who were just like us, saw the opportunity of SEO, saw that they wanted to learn, but saw that they, were getting into the ground floor of the growing company that they could really, have input in and really hang out. Because, you're hanging out with each other 8-9 hours a day, every day of the week. You want to be able to do it with people that you enjoy and be at a place that you feel valued and loved. Otherwise, you just go work somewhere else. So that's what we try and do here. Focus on those core values, make it fun.
Don't you think it's a bit mad to think that in other industries, though, people even now work 5 days a week in an office for 8 hours a day with people that they really don't get on with, aside from professionally. You do that same kind of thing for 40 years plus. It's a weird life to spend. 5/7 of your working life with people you don't like. So to surround yourself with people that you can have a chat with as well as do some work with is really important.
That's what I love about it. Like for me, I look at it and go, yeah.
What would you say though, out of all the things you've achieved up to this date, what would you say that you've kind of you learned the hard way? What's one of the kind of the lessons you've learned, something you regret and go, God, if I hadn't done that?
Yeah, I think what tends to happen is in the hiring process, like you might be stressed out with work, like we need to hire. And, if you don't have a plan or you don't have a clue, you just be like, oh, the work's coming in, I just need to do it. What happened one time was I was hiring juniors, and, we got a few clients in. I thought, okay, we need another one to future-proof that, to sort of get ahead so we can train them up. And by the time that and then that'll allow us to grow more and get more business in, and they'll fill up their time. What tended to happen was, this was during the time of the Great Resignation, January 22, around then, when everyone was trying to leave their jobs, get all the money, and it was harder to find talent. And what I did was I was hiring a junior 3 days a week. And I honestly didn't have candidates that I really, really liked. It was the choice of who was less bad. And I made the choice of who was less bad, and
Yep.
ended up having to let them go after 2 months. So I think if you've got a choice when you're hiring, you got to be sure on it, because if it's got to be about who you like the most rather than who is just less bad. And that's the mistake I made last year. Had to let them go. Time wasted training them up, payroll, all that type of stuff that you think, oh no, but it is a valuable lesson I could impart to others.
Yeah, I think there's the opportunity cost of the time you train them, and there's the culture cost with seeing people come in and leave for the rest of the team. There's the pain on all sides as well, because that person doesn't want to feel like they don't fit in, and that person doesn't want to feel like they're not suitable and get let go and things like that. It's not nice for anyone. And then there's the actual physical cost as well. Potentially work that needed redoing, or indeed client that might not be happy. And then recruiters' fees as well. It's not. There's a few good recruitment firms out there now that aren't vultures, but at the same time, every week that person's in post that they're not a fit is money you can't claw back from the fees that the recruiter put in place. But there's some good firms now that do an awful lot of pre-work before they send CVs now, which is a lot more valuable. So on the other side of things, though, what's something that you did on day one that you're like, this is the secret sauce, we're sticking with this?
I have to say is just get comfortable being uncomfortable. I think like I just had to throw myself in there, which just helped me out. And if you take that into any situation, whether it's networking, like, the one thing that works for me when networking, if you're shy, you go into a networking event or you go to whatever an event, right? People should expect to be approached, and you should expect to be approached. So when I had that mentality, I was like, well, you're here. And if you didn't want to be here and you get annoyed because someone's talking to you, then why the hell are you here? So I think that was a really good one for me, because being able to go into networking events with that mentality, it took down the barriers for me. Like I didn't have to worry about, am I going to annoy this person? No, they're here to network.
Yeah.
I'm work. They should expect to be approached. I should expect to be approached. And then that broke down the wall, so I could just have a chat with anyone. So I think that was good for me, to be able to have that realization. I've taken that into every event now, or everywhere I go.
Yeah, it's there's almost like networking is a bit like dating in a sense, but because there's a professional aspect to it, no one really gets rejected until you just get ignored later. You get ghosted instead. But I used to go to networking events years ago, and I think it was when I first set up in London, I immediately signed up to the Chamber of Commerce and thought, that's where I'm going to get all these leads from. I'm going to go to all the networking events, and I literally came out with a stack of cards, and I went in with a stack of cards. My stack of cards would be gone, and I had a replaced stack of cards of someone else's. And the next day, I just email all these people, and you never hear back. But I'd done it wrong. I went there to sell to these people. I was like, this is what I do. This is all the things, and it's really not that. Especially now, anyway. And having a conversation with someone about what they do and their problems and the things that they're happening in their lives and all that sort of stuff. That's the conversations that really get networking happening, because then you see them at another event the next time. So, how was your son's birthday and that sort of stuff, and you build relationships, and relationships are what gets you your network referral leads and things like that.
100%, yeah, and that's the way to go about it. And on just to follow up on that one, the other one I would say, apart from that quote, is probably just attention to detail. I think for us being able to have attention to detail in all our work, and when our name is stamped on that work, and I've done this from day one. When you put a piece of work out there, you have that call, whatever it may be, and somebody's seeing that, I want them to feel like this is bloody awesome work. So I've always gone into that, even when it was just me. Anytime I did a report or a call or an email, I always made sure everything was correct, because that, in an intangible industry like SEO, the only tangible thing a client gets or someone gets is that report or that email, that call. So every time I made it a mission to make sure that every detail was correct, everything was up to like high standards, so that when they see that StudioHawk report, call, email, or anything from me, they get that sense of, okay, this is legit, and they've taken care and they've got pride in their work. So that's one I've taken from day one as well. When at school I didn't really care, but I don't know, for some reason when you work and when you've got something like a job like this, it's just like that was one thing I've done from day one that just helps me out so much.
And we just did a webinar yesterday around getting feedback, obtaining and leveraging feedback in an agency, and that stamp of I'm happy with this, I'm comfortable with this is going out and it's bloody good work. Have you had feedback from clients, not necessarily about the quality of the work in the sense of what you want, but is there anything that's kind of other than the knowledge that you've done it in the way that you want, is there any kind of feedback that you've had that's made you go, I'm doing this right?
Yeah, like for SEO, because people think like, oh, it's voodoo magic, what the hell is it? So we've always tried to keep it simple. So the feedback we tend to get on our comms and our reports is, I can understand this. And you're talking to like, business owners who like, I can understand this. This is all very clear. And honestly, they don't have questions. If they don't have questions, you've answered everything that they were thinking of. So yeah, that's
awesome.
That's the type of feedback that we tend to get, which is awesome in an industry like SEO.
So for anyone who's been listening to the episode so far and they've stuck with us, thank you very much. What one piece of advice might you give them if they're thinking about starting an agency?
It will be rewarding, but it will be challenging, and you will go through things that you've never gone through before, because agency is all about people. So you'll have to figure out things about yourself and about people that you didn't either know before or want to know, but you're going to have to realize and you're going to have to do it. So honestly, it's going to be hard. There's going to be annoying client emails. There's going to be annoying issues that pop up with people. That lead that you thought was yours is no longer, and they ghost you. There will be terrible, there will be annoying times and hard times, but all that does make you stronger to realize, I can do this. So yeah, that's what I would say is keep pushing, keep challenging yourself, and keep on doing, because it will be hard, but let's put it this way: if I can do it, you can do it.
Would you have that same feeling if you didn't have a plan?
You'd probably be a bit more apprehensive and a bit more, crazy about it. But I think if you didn't have a plan,
where you're going, right? You know the purpose.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that advice holds really strong. So get a purpose, then keep going, push yourself.
Yeah, true. And with our purpose is just doing SEO. So we have that clear vision. Yeah, if you've got an agency that's doing 40 different things, plus also running an agency and figuring out how to be a business owner and the finance and ops and all that stuff. Yeah. So we do have that guidance to be able to make that a bit easier. But yeah, you're right. It's if you don't have a plan, even if you just find a loose one, and then you can craft it and hone it as you continue to learn. Great.
Yeah, absolutely. It's that the direction you're traveling. If you know the direction you're traveling, sometimes you've got a hill to climb.
100%.
Wonderful. Thanks so much for coming on, Anthony. And in about a year's time, I really hope you come back for season 2, because I'd love to hear what happened in the year following this conversation.
Mate, 100%. More than happy to come back. Thank you, man. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks so much. And in our next episode, we'll be speaking with another agency leader to hear their story and the lessons they learned along the way. In the meantime, thanks very much for listening, and see you soon.